Hello. Welcome to Kernels of Truth, brought to you by Progress Kentucky. Thanks so much for joining us this week. We're going to be bringing you the breaking political news out of Kentucky, just like we do every week. We're going to focus on some developments in key federal races, candidates getting in, candidates getting recruited. And then we got an exciting update on union organizing right here in Kentucky, a story we have been following fairly closely. Then we're very excited to be joined by Dee Davis, director of the Center for Rural Strategies, perhaps best known as the organization who publishes the Daily Yonder, a great rural-focused news website. And as Democrats realize they've been largely shut out by rural voters, they start putting time into connecting with these communities. We're going to hear from Dee if he thinks they're barking up the wrong tree, or if there are some approaches they should consider to be successful. So should be a great show. Glad you joined us. But before we get into it, are you ready to help create a more compassionate Commonwealth? We folks are sorely in need of significant political change right here in Kentucky. For the next 14 months, give or take, we are going to be focused on flipping the Kentucky 6th District, the key state house seats that are within that 16 county congressional district. It's a big job. It's going to take volunteers. It's going to take time. It's going to take resources. We really need your help. So please make a monthly contribution right now via our secure online website, Act Blue, to help turn Kentucky 6 purple. $10, $20, $200. Why not? It all adds up, and none of it is tax deductible because we're a C4 organization. But we're all volunteers, so it's all going to the campaign. So there we go. Let's go ahead and check in with our co-host. Let us know who you are, where you are, what time is it where you are, and who is on your biting list. So Aaron, coming to you from Lexington, the suburban enclave known as Chilesburg, with our austere sea of vinyl siding, Chilesburg. All right, so my biting list this week, I've been thinking more and more about just the total cowardice of the GOP and how they have just kowtowed to the kind of Second Amendment worshipers, the folks who we just had some protests go down. We did a Labor Day protest over in Moorhead. They did a Labor Day protest, and some asshole showed up with his AK-47 with a sign that said "Mental Health Defend 2A." And was standing like across the street from the protesters with his AK-47, because of course that's the way to assert your political views, is with the implicit threat of bodily violence. So that the shooting in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and none of these Republicans are willing to do the thing, which is address taking guns away from the folks who shouldn't have them, making it a little bit harder for the folks who shouldn't have them to get them. Here in Kentucky, we have had for a number of years an effort to pass the CAR bill, which was Crisis Aversion and Rights Retention Bill. Don't call it a red flag bill. But yeah, it's a red flag bill, a bill to, folks are having a tough time, kind of losing grip on reality, that folks could petition to get their firearms removed from them until they were deemed okay, right? So that is way too much for the Republican supermajority in Frankfort. And Senate President Robert Stivers, I think, was very proud and happy to kill the CAR bill, and we don't have it in Kentucky. Obviously, we have also had shootings where people who were kind of losing their grip did not lose their grip on their assault rifle. And I think it's shameful. It's pathetic. And the fact that we Democrats or progressively aligned people can't challenge this and win on this and take it to the ballot box. I mean, it's just astounding that we're just, the price of the Second Amendment is having a lot of kids killed. And I guess we're okay with that, because it's not that hard to figure out ways to respect people's rights, but also respect our right to live safely and to go to school safely and not be menaced by high-powered assault rifles. So that my biting list right now is populated by every single Republican, coward out there that will not step up and do the right thing on these critical issues. That's our biting list. Me. All right. So I'll check in now with my co-host after my rant for the day is over. Well, my first rant for the day is over. Kimberly, how are you doing? Where are you, and what time is it?
I am currently in Seoul, South Korea, and it is approximately 8:06 a.m. the next day. So,
So
what
you're
did you
coming to
say
us from the
earlier
future.
when
I
we were
love it.
talking? I'm in the future. Yes, I'm in the future. But let me tell you how the future is going. And I bet I'll put some money on the table that it will also come to Kentucky. We need to keep our eyes open about this. And I read an article in the Rolling Stone, so we want to give them credit. On my Biden list today is Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, and Trump, of course, and Robert Kennedy Jr., and all the supporters and lawmakers in Florida that feel like this is okay. And what it is that they are risking letting polio, measles spread in Florida schools. And Florida is going to be the first state to end vaccine mandates for children to attend public schools. So they've got something now, Aaron, called Make America Healthy Again. But we have an epidemic right now of measles that are spreading all over our country. So that's my Biden list today.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think the kind of cavalier and just irresponsible, kind of approach by the Maha movement, Robert Kennedy Jr., clearly, former heroin addict, clearly a liar, documented to be an impressive liar, and that's even within that cabinet, which Trump leads and has been shown to be an incredible liar. I think RFK Jr. stands out in his ability to lie, and jeopardize our health, and the fact that Dr. Bill Cassidy, Senator Dr. Bill Cassidy, went ahead and gave him the thumbs up and approved him for that role is just hazardous, absolutely cavalier disregard for human health, because we all knew the track record. We all knew what was going to happen. And here it is, and he's doing it. And people like Ron DeSantis following that leadership, that is just, it's shameful. It's horrible. All right, couple good
I didn't do Trump. I
rants.
didn't do just Trump today,
No, I
right?
heard that. Yeah, I know.
You
It
proud
wasn't
of
just
me? I know.
I appreciate your specificity and the new information that you shared with us. Yeah, so that's the Biden list. If you don't know, you got to find out. If you've not heard the Tyler Childers new album, Snipe Hunter, you should check out that song, and you will soon be accumulating your own Biden lists in your head. So we share ours every week until we get tired of it. Maybe we'll go back to our protest signs. But yeah, so that's the Biden list. Let's go ahead and do news of the week, because that's that's what we do around here. We share news stories. Very rarely are they originally reported, but we have some great sources that we like to credit and turn to. So, Kimberly, what are you bringing us?
I'm going to bring to you today, coming from the Courier Journal, where I received this information. These top Kentucky donors want Andy Beshear to run for senator. And yeah. Everybody knows that he's going to run for governor run for president in 2028. And we all know that our governor made the commitment and promise to all of us in Kentucky that he was going to continuously be and fulfill the entire term. So if he ran for senator, that would X-nay that out, right? So what is also very, very, it was very weird to me, but I'm going to tell you that, that Senator Mitch McConnell, aka known as Darth Vader, the Grim Reaper, and so many other things that I can't mention on this family-friendly show. He's talking about the race to replace him because we know that he's retiring. And he says that Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear, our wonderful, great, amazing governor, he feels like that if he ran for senator, there could be a possibility. He's a formidable opponent. And Mitch McConnell is also saying that if he was running again and had to run against Andy Beshear, he would be very, very, very afraid, basically. He says nervous was the quote, but to me, he would be afraid. So he said, Mitch McConnell said that. He also gave Andy some thumbs up, saying that he's obviously an effective politician. He managed to get elected in a deeply red state. McConnell's record in the state of Kentucky for U.S. Senator is 7-0. So we can pretty much say, don't like to ever give him any compliments, but it is true. We have to say he knows politics and how to run very well. So we know that he's not going to do it, but he has, in this primarily Republican state, very, very red, deep red state, he has been able to win Attorney General for the state. This is his second term as governor for this state, whereas President Donald Trump in the past 3 elections, he took it. He took Kentucky, and he was dominated. Republicans did at the local, state, and national levels, which is perplexing to me, but it happened. And so our governor and his team have publicly said that he has no plans to cut his final term in the governor's office short and enter the 2026 Senate race. Plenty of Democrats who have opposed McConnell for decades agree with him this time. So, like Christy Brown, she's the heiress of the Brown-Forman Corporation. She's a billionaires, and she gives a lot of money out. She helped raise more than $1 million for Biden. She's contributed to Harris's campaign and so many others locally, statewide, and beyond. And she's even feeling like in the Senate, there's a desperate need for Andy Beshear right now. His leadership and strong commitment to fair and honest and caring democracy. So that's another big name that's like, oh, he needs to be running for Senate. And I think that he would have an actual good run for it. I think he could even take it, perhaps. I know Eric Hires, the campaign manager for Andy Beshear's campaigns, and he's saying as well, the governor is not going to leave his post. He's going to be basically what we all know, run for president. And in the Republican sector of running for things across this state, you have U.S. Representative Andy Barr, former Attorney General Daniel Cameron, and Nate Morris, who is a Lexington-based businessman. But right now, this was very, very, I don't know. I was like, what? That also State Representative Pamela Stevenson, which is also the minority leader of the House in Frankfort, is currently the only Democrat raising money to run in the May primary, as reported here by the Courier Journal. So there's a lot that goes to that. There's a lot of big time, what we would say, people that are saying he should be running for Senate. What are your thoughts about that, Aaron?
Well, I think, you really couldn't pick anyone else in the political landscape in Kentucky that would have a shot of winning that seat, right? I think, what we saw and what you pointed out, Trump won the state going away every time he's been on the ballot, right? So at the federal political level, Kentucky is incredibly red. That's why our goal is to turn it purple. We're very, rational and reasonable in our goals. We're not, pie in the sky. We know it's a deeply red state. He is, I think, the only politician that could make a run of that. He's the only politician that could win it. I wouldn't guarantee he would win it, but I think he would, make it a really interesting race. Whoever gets it from the Republican side, whether it's, kind of fake Nate Morris, whether it's gross Dan Cameron, whether it's big banks Andy Barr, one of those three is going to be the Republican, and they're going to be tough to beat. And I think Colonel Pamela Stevenson has run statewide in the past, and when Andy was able to get reelected, she did not do that well in the attorney general race. So I think she's she's got a tough row to hoe. I think if Andy got in, then he would be the definitely the favorite for the Democratic nomination. There's a couple of other folks who I think are going to announce soon, and so it'll be interesting to see if the Democratic race shapes up to be competitive. And I always think it's always a better idea to have more candidates, decent candidates. That brings us to our next story, which is about the 6th district race. But how about this one? Everyone says, all right, so Andy Beshear, he won because he's really good politician, but he also was the son of the governor. What about Steve Beshear? I haven't seen him for a minute. The last time I saw him, I think he was stumping for Andy a couple years ago. He looked great. He looked fit. He is a popular guy. Why doesn't he run for the Senate? I know he likes being a grandpa, but who doesn't? He would. I think he'd be a very interesting candidate. I should know this, and we'll need to look it up. But has he run for a federal office before? Or is he just really? I wanted to stay in Kentucky.
Not that I really know of right off the top of my head. That could be something that Mr. Parker looks up for us really quickly. What other seats did Steve Beshear have? However, some people do not want that smoke, as the young people say. I'm trying to be hip and cool right now, Aaron. But some people don't want all that stress. They don't want to be in that rat race anymore. I mean, the hair gets gray so quickly, whether they're the president, the governor, it ages you.
Well, look, I mean, Mitch McConnell has looked like he was 150 years old for the past his past 4 terms. Like the guy's yes, he doesn't look good now, but that's because he's ridiculously old. I think I don't think it's nearly as stressful to be a senator as to be the president. So I think Steve Beshear would be a great candidate. Apparently, he did run in 1996. And clearly
Parker
did not win. So maybe that's why. Maybe the Beshears don't like the Senate race. They're like, that's not for us.
No, I mean, I think that he, you know how it goes sometimes. Sometimes it goes like this. They're already propelling you for an end goal. It's rarely somebody just gets into a race and this is it. There's no end goal. So people like Congressman Morgan McGarvey and several others, they have their aspirations, they have their visions, their goals. And there's other people that have probably come to them and said, you know what? You would be a great congressman one day. You know how we talk about Annabelle, our young people, and Parker, they've got the juice to be someplace. Okay. And that's how they do a lot of times. I've been around I snuck around,
I do not know what you're talking about right now, Kimberly. What are you even saying here? I don't
what I'm saying is sometimes they can pick a person for an end goal.
Mm-hmm.
It would not be unusual because I've seen this in action when my mom was still living, and they would come over, maybe to our house or someone else's house. Back in the day, they would have folders with a picture and everything, a dossier on different people, and say, you know what, we need to get this person right now, get them in there, run for state senate. They would be a great governor one day. We want to put this person on this 10-year plan or whatever to be governor. Mm-hmm. So it would not be unlikely that ever since he was the attorney general to say, you know what, this young man, Andy Beshear, And from his pedigree of his father, Steve Beshear, he would be a great president. So you know what? Don't run for attorney general anymore. We want you to run for governor. Okay, run another time. You got that. You're on that fast track to the presidency.
Yeah.
Now, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'll just say this. I think the reality of it is it's a tough race for any Democrat, even if your name is Beshear. I think it makes it a lot easier if your name is Beshear. Makes it like squintable. Like, oh, I could see them winning that. I think Andy Beshear could win that race, maybe. Like I said before, I think he's the only Democrat that could win it. But I think it's certainly not a guarantee he would. And then if he is, if he does run, I don't know if he'd have to give up the governorship, but, obviously to be an effective candidate, you'd probably need to. But then, so he's not the governor anymore. And then he's like, well, I was going to run for president. I might as well run for president because I don't have anything else on my plate right now because I lost the Senate race. It'll diminish his candidacy for the presidency if he goes for something like that and loses. So I think that's gotta be playing in the math for sure. But because he's young enough that like he could run for president some other time. But I think he's been pretty consistent. I don't think he's going to do it. I like the talk though, but I do think there are other candidates that should be considering getting in the race. Certainly Steve Beshear. Why not? Rocky Atkins should be looking at it. Yeah, Rocky Atkins should be looking at it for sure. I think Rocky would be a great candidate.
But after Rocky, who?
Well, Kimberly, what are you doing? I think you should look at it.
True. I don't want that smoke. Okay,
yeah,
I don't want
that. You have to turn on your camera if you're going to run for Senate. All right, let's go ahead and get to our next story. This is also about candidates. That's all we talk to here. Yeah, sure. We're 14 months away from the election, but why not talk about candidates? And this story is called "Who the Heck is Aaron Petrie?" So this is a story that came across my inbox today. Aaron Petrie has announced that she is running for the 6th congressional district, which if you heard our opening, we are laser focused on flipping that district in November of 2026. And I guess we got a year to get to know this person. Never heard this name before in my life. She apparently is a Democratic businesswoman. This comes to us from the Kentucky Herald, Lexington Herald Leader, rather. She's a bourbon blogger. She launched her run just today for the Central District. She's been in D.C. working for Amazon Sustainability, apparently. She's 37 years old. And she's been in Washington. But here's her quote. She's always been interested in public service, but in my adult lifetime, this seat has not been open to someone who wasn't a career politician. That's not okay. Especially now, considering the state our country's in, the state our state is in, I realize that the main thing that we need is folks who have new voices, fresh experience, and new perspectives. Okay. All right. Welcome to the Hootenanny. She grew up in Lawrenceburg, attended Fayette County Public Schools, went to the UK Patterson School of Diplomacy, which I think Amy McGrath teaches at that some. But her professional career has been entirely in Washington, D.C., recently moved back ahead of her run. If you watch her launch video, put a link to this story that has the launch video linked. She makes a cocktail. So apparently she's also like a bourbon blogger. I don't want to minimize her candidacy. I will say this, she's making an old fashioned and throwing out this kind of word salad about how her old fashioned is like her politics or like Kentucky politics. I don't know. She does use an orange to garnish the old fashioned, but does not use a cherry. So I think that's a bit of a red flag for me personally. I don't think you need a maraschino cherry, but there's some very good quality bourbon cherries that you really should have. If you want to go fancy, you can do the Italian or the Greek ones. But, they got some really good cherries that really do make that, I would say, the world's best cocktail. So I agree with her that it's an important cocktail. I just dispute her her skill in making one, because I just think you got to have that, Jerry. All right, so that means there's 4 announced candidates on the Democratic side. There is this Aaron Petrie. We've got, of course, friend of the show, Sherilyn Stevenson, former state representative. We've got Zach Dembo, who is announced and is I think going to be on the show next week. He's not 100% confirmed. He's weighing his options, I guess. But yeah, he's likely to be on the show soon, if not just next week. And then the final announced candidate, David Kloiber, who is a billionaire who spent a lot of money to finish second in the Lexington mayor's race fairly recently. So that's the field right now. And I will say this, there's another candidate that's looking very closely at this race that's been on this show in the past. So we'll let you know when that happens, and maybe he'll even want to announce here on the show. Why not? I'll check in with him, see what his plans are. But yeah, it's shaping up to be an interesting one. And again, more the merrier. I like to see a contested primary with a lot of campaigns spending money, raising money, going hard for it, building awareness, building enthusiasm. As long as they know that they definitely agree with each other more than they agree with the folks who'll be on the other side. So let's not make this a nasty primary. Let's contest ideas. Run a why is your biography the right biography this time we find our country in right now, which is so dangerous on the precipice of authoritarianism. There's no more important time to flip a seat. So yeah, a really important race, and I'm excited to hear from Aaron. I think we've in the past we've done kind of a not really a debate, but a candidate forum here on Kernels of Truth. And so we will look to do that, I think, in the future. All right. What do you think about this? Did you see her video, Kimberly? Any thoughts about Amazon sustainability manager, Aaron Petrie?
Well, I have a lot to say, but we may have her on as a guest one day, so I don't want to be too bad. But I will say this.
Yeah, if you're too bad, we might not get her on as a guest. She might have nothing to do with us. But...
No, but this is not just for her. This is for a lot of candidates. I need to start a business just on presentation. What you wear, your makeup, your hair, the whole persona, because it makes a difference. If you want to run for senator, it's nothing wrong to be caught with a jogging suit when you're in the park talking to some people or you're walking your dog. But let's just be honest. Psychologically, we have been indoctrinated that when you are a U.S. senator, a congressperson, someone of that degree, we expect you to look polished. I would have suggested a different dress.
Okay. You don't like the peach frock?
No, and it's seersucker at that. You have to be careful with seersucker, especially those of us that are a little bit more voluptuous, because seersucker material is never going to be kind to you. Okay.
All right. So some fashion tips from Dr. Kimberly Cecil Jones.
Yes. If you want to win the race, I was always taught at an early age, you always have to dress and act like you already are what you aspire to be.
So should all these candidates be running around in suits? Because they wear a lot of suits in Washington, D.C. Should they just be wearing suits? Because that's just not comfortable on the campaign trail.
Why not? Congressman Morgan McGarvey, it's very rare you're going to catch him. He might come to like some kind of really, I'm talking about extremely casual event.
Yeah, I think that guy was born in a suit. I really think he might have been.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't. But he gets it. Yeah. He's got to dress like that. You're supposed to dress like that.
Okay. All right. Don't people want like, of the people? Don't people want to, more like approachable, more accessible, wearing the clothes that you wear, maybe? No?
Who is not accessible or approachable no matter what they have on? But, I don't want to see the president of the United. Well, there's a lot of stuff if you talk about Trump, but just generally speaking, a president, I don't want him to be, just running around in shorts and a t-shirt all the time and some,
Yeah.
Air Jordans all the time. We have a certain perception in our minds of the position.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Morgan and he wears suits all the time. So what's the problem, Aaron?
Trump wears a suit all the time. So you're saying Trump is the model for our...
You better not go there with me tonight, because I'm going to tell you right now, no.
All right. Well, the suit does not make the man or the candidate necessarily in my eyes, but it's important to show you understand the assignment and what you would be doing there in Washington, D.C. I think that is that's interesting. That's your view.
Wait a minute. When you look at those women, we're talking about women right now. When you look at those women in the U.S. Senate, it's a little shaky in the Congress sometimes, but in the U.S. Senate, when you look at those women, they always look polished. Their makeup, their hair, they always look polished.
Yeah. No, a lot of pantsuits, except for Kristen Sinema. If you remember her, she had some very interesting fashion choices.
Yes, she did.
Also, the senator from Pennsylvania, doesn't wear a suit. Had to have the rules changed so he could, go vote without a suit on. That's an interesting choice. I don't know how we've gotten here, but I did not have this on the show.
It's a thing, though. It's a thing. It's a thing.
Yes. All right. So we've got one quick story, and then we're gonna get to our guest. Really excited to be chatting with Dee Davis very soon. Rural whisperer Dee Davis. So there's one new story. This is really exciting. If folks remember, we've been following the Blue Oval SK workers effort. So the vote was last week, whether or not Blue Oval SK workers. This is, of course, Ford's enormous EV battery factory, but because it is a joint venture with a Ford, an element of Ford, and SK On, which is a South Korean battery manufacturing company, because it's a joint venture, those workers don't automatically get added to the UAW representation of Ford, right? So they're like, oh yeah, well, you guys can choose to join, but there's been some pretty, shady behavior, according to the union organizers we've talked to, the union workers we've talked to, the battery plant workers. So we had Hadley on, I guess last month. We just saw her at the Labor Day protest or rally that we helped organize on Monday in Lexington. So she came out, she gave the update. So their math is that they have won. So I think Sean Fain, the UAW president, put out a video celebrating the victory. It's a very close race. Some ballots are being contested. There are some folks who they argue should not have actually been voting because they work for part of the factory that was not part of the the represented class. So there's that. They think they're going to win. They're very confident about that, but it's going to be tight. And the National Labor Relations Board is going to have to ultimately determine that. And that's, of course, something that's a little bit scary because the Trump administration, no friend to labor, is in charge of the NLRB right now. Or the folks they've appointed. So it's a interesting time. We're going to watch it closely. But right now, UAW is declaring victory. So it's a big win for workers. Really excited to see it. And that's, of course, the biggest EV battery plant in Kentucky, one of the biggest on the planet. And really excited about those workers making that decision. All right. So that's it for our news of the week segment. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, it's very, very thrilled to be joined by Dee Davis with the Center for Rural Strategies, publisher of the Daily Yonder, proud Kentucky native. Question mark on native. I know he's coming to us from Whitesburg, Kentucky. He is the president of the Center for Rural Strategies. Dee has helped design and lead national public information campaigns on topics as diverse as commercial television programming and federal banking policy. Dee began his media career in 1973 as a trainee at Apple Shop, an arts and cultural center devoted to exploring Appalachian life and social issues in Whitesburg, Kentucky. During his tenure As Apple Shop's executive producer, the organization created more than 50 public TV documentaries, established a media training program from Appalachian youth, launched initiatives that use media as a strategic tool in organization and development. Dee received an English degree from the University of Kentucky, lives in Whitesburg, Kentucky. Welcome, Dee.
Hey, Aaron, how are you?
I'm doing great. And I'm so thrilled that we've got you. And I think when I first started reaching out, and because I'm a big fan of Daily Yonder, I read the Daily Yonder, I will say frequently, not as often as it comes into my inbox, but frequently. And it's a great publication that I think tells the story about what's going on in our rural communities. So as I started, thinking about having you on, it just also seemed to like, oh, the Democrats are waking up to the fact that they need to be talking to rural folks. I'm like, well, this is the guy that they should be talking to. Probably they want some insights into what's going on. But tell us a little bit about the Center for Rural Strategy. How do you characterize what it does and what you do?
So first, I've got to say I was born in Hazard. So
Okay.
yeah, so I started out in Kentucky and didn't get very far at 30 miles. I had a teacher once when I said that I was moving from Hazard to Whitesburg. He said that would be good. That'll improve the IQ of both towns. So this is my territory. We started Center for Rural Strategies in 2001. And with a couple of Kentucky journalists who had made their way to Texas, we started the Daily Yonder in 2007. The Rural Assembly, which is another part of what we do, we took over around 2012. And then we do some other stuff, like we spent 5 years documenting rebuilding efforts in the rural parts of the Gulf after Katrina and Rita. We are gearing up now to do a rural small town faith initiative where we're looking at communities and churches and parishes around the country. We time to time do polling and focus groups. So we do different stuff that has to do with rural.
Yeah. Actually, I first encountered the center, not you directly, but the work you guys were doing on the Gulf Coast, because I've been in Kentucky for about 8 years now, but came here from New Orleans and been doing work with an environmental group down there. So as we mark the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina, I actually saw a post you guys had put out there. I was like, oh, I was on the boat that filmed a bunch of these interviews with Rosina Roybal and others. But yeah, Sue Sturgis and other folks, you came down, I think did just a really wonderful job of, talking to folks on the ground, what they were going through. So yeah, that lens that you bring, I think really is powerful and helps elevate stories that, otherwise aren't going to be heard necessarily.
Yeah. And these stories come back in lots of ways. I know that when a couple of years ago, when East Kentucky had some terrible floods, so reminiscent of being down on the Gulf Coast when people were struggling with not just Katrina, but Rita, which was devastating throughout rural Louisiana. So doesn't make it easier, but you get a sense of how important it is. I always thought, when we were doing the filming here after the flood, it's kind of like Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. Everybody comes up and they have a story to tell, and they'll grab you by the lapel, and they won't let go until that story's been told.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you guys are there to document it for sure. Kimberly, I think you've got a question for Dee.
Yes, I do. So great to see you this evening. We're most interested in our shared home state of Kentucky. As you look at the center's work in rural Kentucky, we know a lot of these areas that historically have supported Democrats have swung heavily for Trump over the past decade, supported the governor, Andy Beshear.
That's right.
especially in his second term, as we well know. How do you characterize your community politics?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in Letcher County. I don't know. Last I checked, it was registered about 3-1 Democrat and voted 4-1 for Trump. I think that nationally, the Democrats made some decisions to, where they were going to make their investment. What they saw was the trajectory of the country, and they did the math the way they thought made the most sense. And so you have Kentucky who voted for Clinton and Gore. You had rural America that voted for Clinton and Gore in the 90s. And then the decision was that the country's changing, demographically it's changing quickly. We need to invest and look towards where the population was burgeoning. And so they made some decisions to move away from poor, smaller rural communities. And in the gaps, the Republicans moved in. That was also the time that daily newspapers started disappearing from a lot of rural places because of the economics of the industry, where I always grew up with the Courier Journal on my table. We saw the coverage, the reporters disappear, the deliveries disappear, and it happened with radio. It happened with radio news. It happened with television. So that the industry kind of went back into their urban hubs and where people were they were well heeled and focused there. And so in the gaps, in the communications gaps, you started seeing these little small Christian radio stations pop up. You started seeing a kind of focus on the family, use of church bulletins, and a kind of nationalization or weaponization of the news. So in the gaps where we started losing an agenda setting news, which had us focus on the state and had us focusing on each other, we saw real shift towards more incendiary kinds of news. They're coming to take your guns. There's a caravan coming. They're going to make gay marriage mandatory. That kind of stuff. And so all of a sudden, for rural communities that were in some ways declining in population or adjusting to economic shifts because of globalization, it was a kind of a blow to information infrastructure that made it very difficult to create a narrative that wasn't already politicized with villains, and that's part of the stream that the Democrats had to face, and I don't think they did it very strategically.
Yeah.
Would you also say, I kind of remember when everything changed, and it was during the Obama administration when Democrats were known at that particular point in time as latte drink. Do you all remember this? We were Starbucks latte drinking, Ivy League party all of a sudden. And
Well,
I remember when that change happened.
so we looked at a lot of different voting patterns, in not so much in Kentucky as we have in rural parts of the country, and particularly in battleground states. And what we find is that we definitely saw an erosion of the Democrat standing, but we saw more than that, just a lot of people feeling left out, feeling ignored, abandoned, and feeling like their contributions were devalued. And it wasn't that I'm going to be a Republican or a Democrat forever. It was more like a lack of connection. And I think Trump was able to can move into that vacuum. Obama at first did quite well in rural communities. First time, not so well in the second time. And then Trump moved in, but we've done polling more recently, and what we find is that rural communities are much more interested in a populist message that is price of gas, price of insulin, who's in control. Nobody cares about us. This is much more resonant than what one party says or another party. And I think, and if you look back at what happened in Kentucky, the last governor's race, I think what we saw is Bashir's campaign was one of showing up and doing something. And I think this was different. I think in a number of other statewide campaigns have been focused pretty much on turnout in Louisville and Lexington. And that was certainly what made the difference for Andy Bashir. But you know, how he won counties like Perry County and Letcher County, and how he kept it competitive in a lot of Eastern Kentucky was that after the tragedies of the flood, he would show up in the county several times a month, and he would come in when they were pouring the footers for a new house, or he would come in and deal with cultural organizations, with show up at libraries. And I think that in a way, he wasn't a stranger or a faceless politician. He cast a shadow.
Yeah, I think and he keeps doing it, right? And he's not running for governor again, but he's showing up when they're handing over the keys to the new homes, in these kind of recovery communities that he helped champion. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. I wonder, with Labor Day kind of in the rear view, what's your take on the kind of the changes that we've seen in the workforce loss in Eastern Kentucky, right? Of course, traditionally these kind of coal communities, famously, kind of the United Mine Workers, the importance of those institutions for building community, for helping establish, just networks, whether that's information, whether that's politics, whether that's just, fighting for better working conditions.
That's right.
Right now, my math, back of the napkin math, there are going to be more workers in Kentucky in the EV battery industry than there will be in the mining industry. And there's not a single union mine left in Kentucky. How do you think that, that change has affected the rural communities that you folks work with?
When I was growing up, my mom worked at the union, the miners' hospital in Hazard, and there were the UMW had a footprint here that was important, but that train has sailed. Union mining went away in this state, and then pretty much mining. I mean, then there's a little bit of mining now, but the industry's somewhat necrotic since we lost miners under every president after Carter, right? They drop. And I mean, part of that is automation. You don't need as many miners. Part of it's the shift in the industry. And also, there's counties in Wyoming that produce more coal than the state of West Virginia. It's just the energy shifts, and then natural gas with fracking as an energy source. Natural gas was so much cheaper than the cost of coal, so that's and cleaner, and so it just changed the industry. And so here, where we were traditionally culturally a coal mining community, and it's very important, and coal's been, you know, it's been a friend. It's built a lot of people's homes. It's sent a lot of kids to college. It's given people a shot at the middle class, but it's not the future, and it hasn't been for a while. And so we can still honor that heritage of being coal mining communities, but we have to find different ways to make a living. The thing that's good about this is that even when the coal industry was in top form and employing a lot of people, we were always kind of the poorest part of the United States. I mean, our congressional district, I think, got down to being the poorest, and our health determinants, we were the congressional district with the lowest lifespan and the most issues of mental health. So it wasn't really working out for us in the best of times. Now it's rough, and a lot of people have lost their jobs and a lot of people have had to move on. But the possibilities of finding work that it honors the community and takes care of families is really part of joining a kind of economy that doesn't depend on big factories or extractive industries, but pays people who are smart and capable and agile to do a variety of jobs. And I think in some ways that's going to be the future for a lot of rural communities that people want to live in are going to do better than communities that are that don't have an optimistic position.
Yeah, I think that idea of having, like, as more and more communities do get high-speed internet, that people can kind of live wherever they want to live. I think there's a lot to speak for rural communities if they're
right.
Well,
I mean, you need good healthcare, you need good schools, you need connectivity, and the heck of it is right now, the big bill that Congress passed is going to take the hide off a lot of rural communities. It's going to be really rough when you start seeing Medicaid cuts, when you start seeing what's going to happen to rural hospitals, when you look at veterans benefits. This bill, though the complaints have mostly been lifted up in urban areas, it's going to be devastating to a lot of rural communities, and there needs to be some reparation, some way to repair this bill and to restore some of the programming, because otherwise in a year or two we might see a lot of small towns hollow out.
Yeah. Kimberly, I think you've got a question for Dee.
Yes, I sure do. Recently, the Kentucky Democratic Party has woken up to the urban-rural divide that's making it impossible for them to win in most of Kentucky's gerrymandered districts, and responded with a rural listening tour. Um, and also in the Kentucky Lantern, they also talked about rural Democrats hold a key to saving Kentucky, basically, and key to the Democratic Party's revival. So, Dee, do you have any thoughts or recommendations for the KDP, which is the Kentucky Democratic Party, on these efforts?
I'm sure they don't need my advice, but I would say that um, um, showing up is pretty important. Talking to people, listen to them, and geez, talking English, right? We've seen national Democrats oftentimes use language that doesn't resonate or puts people off. And I think that, part of it is just listening and showing up. It doesn't mean that everybody has to agree on everything, but the, um, uh, storytelling is really what, it's kind of like the opposable thumb. It's what separates us from other animals. And I think in some ways that getting the chance to hear each other's stories is the first part of healing and restoration of these artificial divides.
Nice. Yeah. So one thing that I think is really interesting, one thing that we've been excited about really is the candidacy of Ned Pillersdorf. So, successful attorney, rescued an enormous amount of Social Security beneficiaries after the Eric Kahn Social Security corruption case. So Ned's running against Hal Rogers, who is older than the hills, who Ned argues, the point you were making earlier about that big bill. So that, that GOP budget bill is, what Ned says is that Hal has betrayed his constituents by being the vote to pass that bill, cutting billions from Medicaid. And of course, Hal Rogers' 5th congressional district is the most people on Medicaid per capita, I think, in the entire country. So what do you think a candidate like Ned needs to do to have a shot at beating a long-time entrenched incumbent politician like Hal Rogers?
Yeah, I mean, strange things happen in politics, and in a way, Ned would need something out of the ordinary to happen. But AOC got in with 17,000 votes in the primary, right? That certain things are under the radar, and at this point, this congressional race is certainly um, um, not garnering a lot of attention. And I think what Nick can do is frame the conversation in a way that puts these small towns and rural communities in this district in the frame. That is, if we are suffering the lowest lifespan in the country, somebody's responsible, and someone who's been in a position to do some good hasn't pulled it off. So I think that's a big issue, especially at a time when one vote was the difference in that bill. So yeah, I think it's got policy chops that he can bring in, but I think it's also important in a race like like this, that his profile be raised, or the stories be lifted up in a way that people can get a sense of possibilities if when you run against an incumbent who's been in for 38 years, you got to get you got to let people know you're serious and that you got a shot.
Yeah, obviously it's a tough race. It's not one that the DCCC has circled as a priority race. It's one that's going to take a bit of a sea change, I think. But man, I tell you, I couldn't have designed a better candidate than Ned Pillersdorf, right? The guy has started his own, animal shelter, and fighting for Medicaid, fighting for Social Security benefits, an area that just truly relies on them for so many folks. I just tell you what, I think that guy's he's got a lot of stories to tell.
There's a song.
Yes.
There's an Australian song I like. It's called from little things, big things grow. I think in a way you've got to plant the seeds and then nurture them and be patient, because they won't grow just the way you think they will. You've got to then respond and take advantage.
For sure. And we got over a year for this to grow, so we'll see what happens. Got a season or two there. All right, so Dr. Jones, got any final questions for our guest?
Yes, I do. Very quickly here. How can our friends and followers support the important work of the center?
Well, I mean, it's really cool when people read our stuff or participate in our gatherings. DailyYonder.com is there, and just check it out. See if you like it. It's free to read. We have a whole set of podcasts and videos that people might enjoy about rural issues. Right now, we have a series on aliens and rural communities in the movies that I think is a lot of fun. On September 17th, we're having our Rural Assembly Everywhere. This is often populated by writers and musicians and people in small towns and country places around the country who like to join in and find pals. So that's September 17th. And you can just find any of it by going to our website, Rural Strategies, Center for Rural Strategies.org.
Gotcha. Well, thank you again for taking the time this evening to join us. Really do appreciate your insights from the important work you're doing in rural communities all across the country, but certainly your home of Kentucky. We appreciate you.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you guys both, and I appreciate getting in, being part of the conversation.
Yeah, Nima Brewer sends her best as well. So
yeah,
we heard you were going to be on. She's very excited about that.
Oh, that's cool.
All right, so we're going to wrap it up. We've got a call to action, though. It's a really important call to action. This is one that folks have listened to this show before. You likely know that we are proud members of the Forward Kentucky Network, and that's we're proud to partner with that progressive news website to help share out this show every week. We're now proud to be sponsoring their inaugural Forward Kentucky Summit. It's happening online September 27th. Bruce Maples is bringing together the grassroots campaign experts to help you level up your impact on Kentucky's politics, whether that's as a citizen activist, a candidate, or a campaign professional, log on, pay what you can, and join us online September 27th. We're proud to sponsor it. Our own Annabelle Nagel is going to be speaking there. I'm going to be hosting one of the tracks. So you'll see me, you'll see Annabelle, you'll see Bruce, you'll see a lot of fantastic experts. No, seriously though, check out that website, check out that registration link, and you'll see some cool stuff happening. So Kimberly, can you close us out?
I sure will. And Aaron, I hope that you've gotten your Powerball ticket for the drawing tonight, $1.4 billion. And if any of our listeners and viewers happen to get that winning ticket, please remember Progress Kentucky. Okay, remember us when you win all that money. I won't turn anything down but my collar when it comes to some money. So Progress Kentucky is a nonprofit organization registered with the Kentucky Secretary of State and organized as a 501c4. We are affiliated with the Indivisible Project and the Commonwealth Kentucky Action, and are also proud members of the Forward Kentucky Network. Progress Kentucky's goal is to educate, organize, increase voter turnout, and advance a progressive agenda through civic engagement. Please join us next week for our 226th episode. Actually, I believe is that gonna be our 227th episode, Aaron?
It should be, yeah.
Okay. And we will have a wonderful guest. You will not be dismayed or disappointed next week. And production of episode 226, which was tonight, was by our very own host, wonderful guy that I happen to know, Mr. Aaron Viles. And also, of course, our great engineer, Mr. Parker Williams. Thank you, Parker, for all that you do. Nate Orshan wrote and performed our theme song. You can find more information and music at natosongs.com. Everybody say it with me, natosongs.com. And if you miss our weekly live stream on Facebook or YouTube, audio podcasts and our show notes are always available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and just about wherever you get your podcast. And when you do, please, please, please give us a 5-star review. It really helps us. It propels the podcast out, as also sharing this program. So everybody have a great rest of your week, and thank you for joining us.